Today we're going to show you how to install a M5 forestry cage. The underbelly pan, your front grill, hood. But the first steps that we like to take is installing the main cage before we start the bottom. First step is your main frame cage bracket. We want to install this first, and it will install to your axle, main frame, and your roll bar. And what you want to do is remove these back two bolts from your axle and the roll bar rod, and mount the main frame bracket. Do not tighten the bolts up, but you'll draw them up just enough to where it's holding it still. And once we install the rest of the parts to the main cage, then we'll tighten everything up. I would always recommend 2 people, and in some cases when we put the rooftop on the main cage, I would have 3 people or a lift, one or the other. Okay, Jake. We'll remove these main bolts. We already had them loose, so make it a little faster. Just ease it up and through your drawbar. You may have to spring the main frame bracket just a little, but it will give enough to get the bolts in. Once the bolts in, we'll just draw them up just enough to hold it upright. Okay, that's your main frame bracket. Like I said, it's not all the way tight because the next step, we're going to mount the rear escape hatch frame. And you'll use 3/8 by 1 1/4 carriage bolts, 4 of them. Okay, now we're going to install the middle rear cab screen, this with the escape hatch. And you'll see the 2 tabs. This is going to mount to the roll bar using 3/4 by 2 inch hex bolts and a flange nut. Okay, go ahead and screw those in up there first. We install the first 2 bolts, the 3/4 first, to balance the rear screen. Okay, once those are in, now he's going to install the 3/8 by 1 inch carriage bolts, and I'll use the flange nuts on the bottom. Okay, we have all 4 bolts in, and what you're going to notice that this rear center cage piece is flush with each end of the main bracket, and that it's also flush with the back of the main bracket. But leave the bolts loose, like I said, until everything's installed on it, then you tighten everything up. Next step, we're going to install the left and right wing. We'll install the left one first, and then we'll shut the camera off and we'll go to the right side and have it installed. So once the left's installed, you just repeat the same process on the other side. What this takes is 4 3/8 carriage bolts by 1 inch. And you'll see the double bend here, that always goes to the outside edge because your next wing bracket will install here. It's best to put the very top one in and then hang your wing on it. These rear wings are interchangeable, so they can be a left or a right. You can just flip it upside down. Okay, now we're going to show you how to install the right and left wing. We'll install this one. You'll repeat the same process on the right-hand side. But what I do, take some of your packaging material. We always set on the fender, because once we install this, it will want to tilt forward. We don't want to scratch the fender. And it will take 4 3/8 by 1 carriage bolts also. Like I said, we'll just balance it on the fender. Okay, there's your left-hand wing. We'll go to the right side. Again, this will take 4 3/8 by 1 carriage bolts and flange nuts. That's the first half of the cage. The rest will have to go to the front, just in front of the driver's area, and install 2 main brackets before we can proceed with the rest of the cage. All right, our next step, we're going to finish installing the rest of the main cage. What I have here are the main frame brackets for the front of the cage, the starting point to put all the grid pieces on. And what you'll see is your 2 larger holes are going to go on your frame. You'll remove the top 2 bolts from the bucket and the frame. And you'll secure the bracket. The little U-shaped welding bracket, that's for your hood side pieces. It's a guide point for them. So we'll install this on this side, and then we'll go to the other side and install it. Okay, once we have those installed, I'm going to put a little torpedo level on it. So we want to make sure that bracket stays level, so all the cage goes together good. Okay, the bracket is level right there, and we let it fall all the way down till it touches the top of the bolts. So that's kind of where our starting point is. Okay, when you install the main frame front cage bracket on this side, on the passenger side, or driver's side, I'm sorry, there's a little bar that's here. It's a little guide that holds these wires right in, but we're going to replace it using this bracket, and it will hold everything in. So this part, you need to just cut or just pull it off. You won't need that. And don't worry about this part here. This bracket will push those on over. Okay, level. Again, put the level on it. Make sure everything's level. Okay, we've installed the main cage frame brackets. Once that's done, now we're going to start with the rest of the panels that make up the front of the cage kit. So, and again, they use 3/4 by 1 1/4 hex bolt. So once we install these, this one on the driver's side, we'll go to the passenger side and install it. Okay, the bolts are in. We're just going to let this set here while we go do the passenger side. Okay, we've got both panels, left and right side, installed. Now we're going to go to the middle and install the center panel that will tie all this front together. Okay, we're going to install the centerpiece that tie both the left and the right main cage kit together in the front. It takes 6 3/8 carriage bolts with flange nuts. Now to tie everything together, we're going to finish putting the left and the right side in. On your left side, driver's side, this is your door. On the passenger side is going to be a solid grid panel. So anyway, it uses 8 3/8 by 1 inch carriage bolts with flange nuts. And the reason we don't tighten everything up is because this last piece, we need to be able to move pieces around and tie it together. Okay, again, leave everything loose. We're going to finish the other side, and the other part, when this thing starts squaring up, is when we start putting the roof panels on. So that's why we want to leave it all loose, so we can line up the rooftops, and at that point we'll start securing everything. Okay, we've got both the left and the right side, so this is all of your side pieces, front pieces of the cage. Our next step is now we're going to lift the roof panels up. We'll do the rear one first, get it all in place and bolts in, and then we'll put the front part on. And at that point, we've got everything squared up, we'll start tightening stuff up. Okay, now we're to the point of installing the rooftops. We're going to install the rear first, and then we're going to put the front on. You'll notice all the holes in here. They'll line up with your top of your grid cage. Using 3/8 by 1 inch carriage bolts and flange nuts. Once we got the rear put on, we'll put the front on, and then this will be joined to the back one, so they'll seal up. There's 2 ways putting this on. You can take 3 people by putting this back roof panel on, or if you got enough clearance, you can take a forklift, set it on there. I would recommend putting some styrofoam down or whatever where you can slide off the roof panel onto the top. It is 3/16 plate, so it is heavy. So just whichever one you feel comfortable in. I would recommend everybody else use a forklift. Here in the shop, we know how to install it, so we kind of go about it just manually. Okay, we've got the rear roof panel on our main cage. Now we're going to install the front. Once we install that, attach it to the rear and the front points, everything should square up, and we'll start tightening everything up. Okay, we finished installing all the main cage, the rooftops. We've went around and we've tightened all the bolts up. Now what we want to do, we have a gusset bracket that comes from your loader arm up here to tie in that supports the whole front. The pin, we have to remove this pin that's in the bucket, and and we're supplying a new pin that will have a threaded hole that's going to hold this arm in place and still let the bucket pivot. So we're going to go ahead and install the driver's side, and then we'll go to the passenger side and install it. Okay, we've installed the gusset bracket on this side. I want to go over the other side and show you there's one bracket you have to remove, and we've made an extension plate for it that holds the hydraulic lines. We're on the passenger side to install the gusset from your main cage down to your bucket arm. But this bracket that comes from the factory holds your hydraulic lines. We removed it, and we're going to add an extension that brings it on down lower that will still protect your hydraulic lines from moving out away from the tractor as you're using it. So, okay, James. I'll tell you what, James, you just start those. That one. Okay. This part can go ahead and be tightened up. Okay, we finished installing the gusset from your cage to your arms. We've got our extension bracket here. Everything's back secured. Okay, we're going to show you how to install the skid plate or belly pan. It goes by 2 or 3 different names under an M5 open station. What we're going to do is start from the front first. Always start from the front. Work your way back, putting the pieces in. If you try to go from the back, you're going to end up with a gap between the plates, and you'll have to start all over. And the first thing we're going to do, the tractor comes with the front. Usually it has a grill on it. And if it does, you'll remove the grill, take these main bolts, and we're going to install the first part of the skid plate, which is your angle piece that comes up. And at the same time putting this on, you have to make sure you install the bumper brackets with it, because the bolts will go through these bumper brackets. So you can get the bumper out there so we can attach the hood to. I'm using a jack here so it helps us to get the first plate up in place. So it'll be a little awkward, and you may want to get a third guy if you have to. Little pause. Oh. There we go. What you do, you see the slotted holes. This plate, once you get all the bolts kind of started in there, you'll let this plate drop all the way down to the top of the bolt. So these bolts will be right at the top of this slot. What I'm going to do is hold first one so my guy can start the bolt. You can kind of do them finger tight until we kind of get everything aligned. Repeat the same process for the other side. There it goes. Okay, one more. There it is. Okay, once those in place, We're going to use a level to level these parts here. Like I said, make sure your front skid plate is all the way down. So you're running level. We just twist these so they're setting level with main one. These brackets can slide out left to right. What you want between the two holes is about 14¼ inches, 14 3/8. Allows for your bumper to slide left and right. Okay, we're about 14 3/8 center to center, and that's what you want. Once we know that we've got this pretty well set, leveled, these we will go ahead and tighten up. Okay, there's your main bumper brackets and then the start of your skid plates on the bottom. Like I said, get everything level. This slid down. Just kind of tighten them up enough where you make sure they are level, and then finish tightening them up before you proceed to put the bumper on, because it's a little harder to get back in here to tighten these if you don't tighten them before the bumper. Okay, now we're going to install the bumper using 3/4 hex bolts, 2 inches long. What we want to do is, once we get the bolts in here, we want to center this bumper, because when your hood comes down, you've just got enough clearance for that hood to come up before it gets into here. So if it's not centered, you're going to be scratching the paint off the hood. Put your flange nut on the back. It is centered now. We'll put a level on it, just make sure. And it's running level, and now we can tighten up the bumper. Okay, now your bumper's tight. The next part we're going to put on, and which we have already installed it, but it's put on there just loose, is the middle bracket, hanger bracket for the skid plate. We'll remove the 2 mainframe bolts on each side, and this little carriage will slide up on the outside of each. You'll put your bolts in, just draw them up, just kind of keep them a little loose, and you want that bracket to come all the way down. Those are slotted holes. Just let it fall all the way down to the bolt, and just snug them up just a little bit, just to hold it in place, because we will tighten it once we get all the plates and stuff on. The second step for the underbelly is to install this main carriage unit that the plates are going to mount to. And what you're going to do, you're going to see your main bracket. These tall brackets here all mount to your differential, axle, and transmission area. It takes a 20mm bolt for the front. You'll always notice here there's 1 notch here, 2 notch here, 0 back here. The 1 notch always goes to the front. And what we're going to start with is these holes here will line up directly in line with the axle. You'll see a double set of holes. That's where those start. The rest of these will line up with it. And once you get this up there, all 6 bolts in, you can go ahead and tighten this unit up. On the undercarriage, the second set of holes, your second mounting bracket, there is a little spring, and there's a bolt holding that spring to that mounting section. You need to unbolt that, and then after you get the carriage frame up there, pull that spring down with a pair of vice grips and the little plate, and put the new bolt through it and tighten it up. It's a spring mechanism for your parking brake, so it needs to be in there. And we're using a jack again. We're going to level this, slide it in there. I know the guy is under there on a creeper. He'll put the front 2 bolts in. Once you're in there, we'll start jacking it up where it kind of starts touching the bottom of the main frame. You up there, James? Yeah. Okay. We get it up to the main frame, we leave it a little bit loose so we can move it around to line up the holes. I just draw them up finger tight. That's all you need to do for right at the moment. Okay, once all 6 bolts are in, just lower your jack and we'll tighten them up with an impact. Okay, the next part we want to install after we've done the rear carriage is your second skid plate. And we've got to turn sideways on this floor jack. We're going to slide it underneath the tractor, get it past the front wheels, and we're going to spin it around to the direction. And we'll pull it up against your front number 1 piece of your skid plate. We're going to be using 3/4 by 1 1/4 carriage bolts, or not carriage bolt, hex bolts with flange nuts to bolt all of this up. Okay. Now we're pivoting it, turning the plate forward. Once we feel like we're in line, we'll jack up the plate. Okay, once you got the second skid plate in place, don't draw any of the bolts up like I said before. The second plate is touching this front curve plate, the first plate of your skid plate. And what we're going to do, we're tying them together with a connection plate. It takes 6 3/4 by 1 1/4 carriage bolts. So we'll put this section on. Don't draw it up just yet, tight, but we'll put it on and line everything up. Okay, you'll see all of the carriage bolts that we have connected, got our connecting plate. And then back here, you'll see the first 2 bolts of your undercarriage that holds that second plate. And then 2 more bolts on that midsection. So everything's connected, in place. And now we can draw up and tighten up these skid plates from the front to this middle section. Once we've installed the second skid plate section, we're going on back to the third. Again, all the holes you see in there, there's like 12 3/4 by 1 1/4 inch carriage bolt that's going to hold up the second section. Just get everything lined up, get a couple bolts in to hold it.
Yeah, I got the 2 on this side.
Okay, Dean, you drop the jack.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we got it held in place. Now the next thing we got to do is got these connection plates that we're going to add to it. Here's the second plate to connect the second skid plate to the third skid plate. And then you'll do the same thing on the back side of the third skid plate that will join the fourth one together. We're here, we're installing the last skid plate on the lower carriage of the M5 Forestry cage. We put it on a pallet or on a jack. It makes it a lot easier. We'll slide it in, jack it up in place, and then slide it up and butt it up to the next, be the third piece of the skid plate. And we're using 3/4 by 1 inch hex bolts with the flange nut. Okay, we've installed all the skid plates underneath. The last piece we have to put on is another connecting plate that connects the rear plate to the third plate, just like we did previously installing the front 2 plates. So we'll put this in, connect them together with the 3/4 by 1 1/4 inch hex bolts. Okay, everything is installed for the belly pan skid plate section. Now we're going to tighten up all the bolts to secure everything tight. We have the parts laying out for the hood. It's our last part of it. And what we're going to do is we're going to assemble all this hood section, and then we're going to set it up on the tractor and get the hinge locations and our final attachments done for it. Okay, we've assembled all the hood. You'll see all the carriage bolts. You just set the 2 sides up first, put your bolts in. After you got those in there and the bolts just finger tight, you want to put your front grill section in, get those bolts in, and once all of that's done, then you can tighten everything up. Reason we did it on the floor like this, you can do it by putting 1 panel up on each side. Like this panel, you can bolt it up on the tractor, but it is so much more difficult. But it will take 3 people, maybe 4 people to set the hood up in place, but it is a lot easier. Okay, we've got the hood screen all put together, flipped upright like it goes on. This is where it's going to take 3 or 4 guys to lift it up there, the best way to do it. But what we're going to do is we're going to slide it in place, and your hinge points are down at the bottom. We're going to use a 3/4 by 3 inch hex bolt. And we got to have a little spacer on each side that'll fill in to keep this thing from sliding back and forth. So right now we're going to lift this all up, set it in place, and also back in the back, the end of the hood, cage hood, will set right in those 2 slots, 1 on each side. We have the hood all installed. These are your hinge points. Come on up here, Corey. And your hood is fastened here with these knurl knobs. You'll just turn those, take them all the way out, and your hood will tilt forward. Make sure your bucket's all the way down. Your hood will tilt up, and it will rest on the bucket while you service the tractor, whatever else you got to do. Let the hood back down and put your knurl knobs back in. They're threaded, and you're good to go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to install the last 2 things, the side door, the rear door. No vibration on that one. Okay, that's the door. Oops. You shouldn't have any problems installing a cage. There may be very minor modification if there's a burr in a bolt hole or something, but most of the time you won't have any problems. I want to thank you all for purchasing a Badlands Armor product. Hope you enjoy it. Anything else you need, you can get a hold of us by email, text, or whatever you need to, and we'll try to accommodate everything you need. Thank you for your business.